All right, guys, welcome back to Hero Report presented by TarGirl247.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones joining me from Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, following North Carolina's 20-15 victory over Stanford. Carolina improving to 4-5 on the year, 2-3 in ACC play. Stanford dropping to 3-7, 2-5 in league play, and 0-6 on the road this season. And AJ, don't worry, guys. Don't worry. We're going to spend a lot of time in this talking about the defense because they absolutely deserve a ton of credit today and really over the past few weeks with how they've been playing. They've been absolutely fantastic for the most part, barring, little bit of a, gave up some touchdowns late in the fourth quarter, which we're going to talk about as well. But besides that, I thought it was a really, really impressive performance for the defense. But we just can't skip over the first half, though. Despite Carolina getting the win, despite Carolina really, I think, being in control for large parts of the second half in particular, I thought the first half again was, and this is not the first time we've seen this season, AJ, just an atrocious display of football, offensive football from both teams. I mean, North Carolina figured it out a little bit more in the second half and kind of ultimately did enough to score 20 points and get the win. But, I mean, Carolina, man, just could not get the ball moving in the first half. And same thing for Stanford. And I don't know what it is, man. I'm trying to put my finger on it a little bit. I almost tweeted during the game, like, that's kind of 2 weeks in a row where I'm like, maybe Carolina's just like a second half team. Is that kind of just what we're trending towards now? Because it seems like they play a little bit better football, especially on the offensive side of the ball in the second half. And then I literally deleted the tweet because I'm like, well, 3 weeks ago it's against UVA. Nobody scored a touchdown in the second half. So I guess that doesn't really apply here. So What do you think was up in the first half, AJ? Are we just kind of like, is that just the theme of the weekend? Kansas game, Carolina didn't play very well in the first half, turned it on in the second half. Is that maybe just the theme that we're sticking with in Chapel Hill this weekend? It's the only thing I can figure out.
One of the things that I've appreciated about having Bill Belichick here that I've learned is really the unique, and I've known this, but he really emphasizes it more than any coach I've ever covered, is the uniqueness of how each week is a separate entity, all into itself. So he doesn't really look at trends or themes. Every game is different. We saw a lot more Davion Goss tonight than DeMond June because they thought that he presented his skill set was a better matchup for what Stanford did defensively. They're literally chess piecing this thing. Mm-hmm. And they do it according to what the other team has and what they think they have that can maybe combat that. So I don't really think that there's any connection to it because they had a really good first half offense, or not a decent first half offensively against Charlotte. They did it against the first possession against TCU and everything else. It took a while to blow up, eventually blew up the wrong way. I just think it's sort of where the game is, and they are so underwhelming across the board with personnel. It takes a while to sometimes figure their way out of the bag.
Yeah,
it's a dry bag, and then it becomes a wet paper bag, and then boom, they go down the field 75 yards. The first play drive of the second half. They did that last week in Syracuse. Really good third quarter, and they're able to get into the end zone and establish control of the game. So I think that's more that. I think it's figuring out how to use these pieces to try to advance against the defense. It's really very tactical in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And because each team is unique unto itself, that aspect of things changes. Virginia, they were able to exploit a Virginia team early. I don't think Virginia was ready to play.
No, they weren't.
At all. Mm-hmm. But then Virginia buckled down and shut down the heels once they made some adjustments. Because I think when this team has some success and then the opposition makes adjustments to them, then there's two different kind of waves of approach, tactical approaches by this team. That's kind of all they have. They don't have so much personnel. They don't have so much diversity that they can keep throwing different things at you. Before, we've seen offenses here that could. The Marquise Williams days, I mean, good gracious, Marquise caught like 3 or 4 touchdown passes in his career. Quinshaw Davis throwing TD passes, the jet sweeps with Ryan Switzer, the trickery things, the flea flickers, and the power running with Elijah Hood. We saw a lot of that with Mac Brown here, with Sam Howell and Drake May. This club doesn't have bells and whistles to do that with. They have a limited package. They're going to show you some. If it doesn't work, they're going to try to respond with this. If that works, it might be enough to win a game, especially with the way the defense is playing. I think that's what we're looking at. I don't want to connect with this. I'll connect the defense because of the production has been quite similar, but I'm not going to connect the offense because I think the defense has more talent than the offense. I think the defense can actually control a game against minimal opponents, moderate opponents, where the offense can never control a game. They can control a few drives where they take control and they make something happen. And they've gotten a few more big plays of late. The 55-yarder to Jordan Shipp today is a perfect example. The 72-yarder last week with Juju in Syracuse is an example. So, but defense has been a lot more consistent. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So I think that for the offense, if Freddie Kitchens can – if that Flint works and he sparks a flame, a few drives a game, and they get points, the way they're playing right now defensively, especially with the competition they played, that's enough to at least be in the game. And a couple times, certainly the last 2 weeks, it's been enough to win games.
Yeah, I want to spend a lot of time in this talking about the defense, and this I think is a way to kind of summarize what we saw in the first half, but also kind of advance this thing into talking about the defense. Six sacks, one forced turnover, and just 100 yards of offense for Stanford in the first half. And the game was tied at 3-3 going into the break. And I think that just tells you everything you need to know about the offense, AJ. And this defense is playing, I think, good enough football to beat a lot of teams, especially in this league. And especially against, yeah, 100%, especially when you come up against teams like Stanford, like Syracuse that are struggling, kind of bottom tier part of the league. I think this defense is playing well enough to beat a lot of those teams. And if you just run through the stat lines today, man, the defense held Stanford to just 165 yards before their two big scoring drives later in the fourth quarter. So 320 yards total on the game, just 36 rushing yards on 35 carries for Stanford. 9 sacks on the night, AJ. 9 sacks. I feel like it wasn't too long ago where Carolina didn't have 9 sacks in a season. And I'm in a little bit of hyperbole there, but like that is the type of defenses and defensive fronts that we've seen at this school in recent years. 9 sacks on the night for North Carolina. And, man, they are very, very impressive. I want to kind of separate this, though, because I do want to talk about, not to focus on the negatives here, but I do want to talk about what happened with this team after they went up 20-3, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. But before that, we'll focus on that part of the game. I mean, this is just a defense that is kind of stacking performances together now. They've done it against Cal. They've done it against Virginia, a team that, again, I don't think was ready to play, but you have to give a lot of credit to Carolina's defense for how they stopped Chandler Morris and Cal. They did it against Syracuse last week, albeit against a lacrosse player at quarterback who had no business being out there. And they did it against a Stanford quarterback tonight who –
first-time starter.
He's not Andrew Luck, is he? I guess we can all agree on that, okay? He's not Andrew Luck, who's the general manager on the sidelines for the Cardinal yelling at the referees, which I kind of like, by the way. I don't hate that.
I had a nice chat with him in the elevator.
He told me a little elevator combo.
And I asked him about, hey, you like being GM? He goes, it's a challenge. I love it. It's a challenge. I love it. And I figured he was going to the press box to watch the game. Next thing you know, he's chasing down referees on the field.
I finally spotted
I like the vitality that Andrew Luck had in the elevator, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, I know. I finally spotted
him on the field.
I finally spotted him in the second half because I feel like every time I see a picture of him or see him on TV, he's got like this weird kind of like flat brim cap on, and he was not rocking the flat brim cap today. So I finally spotted him in the second half after one of the timeouts. But what do you make of this defense in the performance, again, specifically before kind of what transpired late in the game? Because I do want to talk about that separately. Again, it just feels like a defensive unit that is improving and is doing enough to help Carolina win these type of games. And man, you're also sitting here too, like, God, if that offense was just slightly below average, what kind of season could this have been with how the defense has played, especially over the last month or so?
I think the defense has been a developmental thing. And I'll tell you about an exchange I had with Belichick about that in a few minutes. But I think the defense here with the sacks and the basketball team with the dunk should have a competition who can get more, because we're seeing a whole hell of a lot of both.
It's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
So my question to Bill, and by the way, Melkart Abujadeh was the defensive lineman of the week in the ACC this past week. It's going to go to Tyler Thompson this week, and it should. 100%. Tyler deserves some love. And before I go on to Bill, I got to talk about Tyler for a minute. I remember when he showed up from Panther Creek here locally. Mm-hmm. He was Israel, man. He was thin, but Mac Brown loved him. Talking to Mac Brown, behind the scenes, Mac talked to, look, we really love Tyler. We got to get some weight on him. Someday he's going to be fantastic and all that. And he's really coming to his own. When they got on the plane and flew to Berkeley 23 days ago, he had no sacks in his career. Mm-hmm. He now has 7. No, or he now has 7.
Yeah, three today. Three tackles, 3 sacks.
He had 2 against Cal. He had 1 against Virginia. I think 1 against Syracuse and 3 today.
Yeah.
The 2 of them, that's pretty impressive.
He had the big pass.
He had the big pass stocks and the black cleats, channeling his inner 1983. Mm-hmm. And you've got Tyler Thompson, who put the weight on. He's dropped a little bit of it. He got some playing time last year when Kamen Rucker was out. He and Jabron Harvey kind of split that up. And I think Jabron ended up getting a few more snaps than Tyler. But even though he made some plays, but he made some mistakes, but there's a lot there on film to learn. I've spoken a lot before about inexperienced guys getting stuff on film because they can sit there and just comb over it and study every nook and cranny of it and learn it if they're committed. He's a committed dude to his craft. He's someone that the teammates – he's an interesting guy. I've heard that he likes to talk about very interesting things. He's kind of thoughtful about stuff beyond football, but he also is very, very much a grinder in the film room and everything else. And what we've seen is an older guy, a guy who's gotten older in the same program. He's stuck to it. He's been given opportunities and he's made the most of it. And he's someone that I don't think anybody thought in August that Tyler Thompson would be a guy who's racking up sacks for this team. They thought they were getting that from Price Yates, the UConn transfer, but Yates only played in 1 game. He had the concussions. He ended up retiring. And guys, I know some people think there's more to it. I don't know anything more to it. I know he retired because of concussions. And goodness knows that Tyler Thompson has had an opportunity. He's made the most of it. He's helped bookend Melkart. It's not just Melkart getting stuff. It's both of them. And they're out there together sometimes. Mm-hmm. In fact, they forced a timeout for Stanford because Stanford had like a 3rd and 2 or something. And the 2 of them were out there on the field. There were only 2 down linemen with the hand on the ground. And they were both lined up over the tackles. There was all this space. And they only had 2 linebackers on the field because Caleb Koss was out there too. And it was an interesting defensive formation, if you will, with those 2. I think Stanford was going to throw the ball, and they realized, oh, man, this is not advantageous. They called timeout. Carolina came out the same set. Stanford ran right into it, ran a run play right into it, and Carolina beat them on that snap. The 2 of them on the field forced a timeout. So when that starts happening, you've got guys that are playing ball, and you've got guys that are affecting plays even if the play doesn't come near them. Teams are starting to scheme away from one, but you can't scheme away from either when they're both on the field. Stanford ended up running the ball right over tackle, and the play was made. Andrew Simpson was there to gobble him up, and the secondary hit because the initial hit was at the line of scrimmage, and they made the play. They got off the field. So when you start seeing teams try to scheme away from certain guys, that means they are playing some serious ball. It doesn't matter what the competition is. They're playing ball, high-level ball, the kind of ball that Carolina better pony up. Keep these guys, right? Especially Melkart, because people love him. He's starting to look like the guy at Delaware all the time, but he's playing a much higher level now. He's developed a ton. So Carolina's got something there. They've got something with Kamori House going sideline to sideline.
Oh, yeah, 100%, yeah.
I remember
he was really good tonight. He was really good.
For the older guys who've been around a while, remember when Mac got the defense playing at the level it was in 96 and 97? It was a process. And he went speed. And what they used to do was they would get a strong safety, and they make him a linebacker, right? They'd get a linebacker, they make him a defensive end. They'd have guys move up a notch in position to add more speed. They'd take a defensive end and move him inside. They did that with Marcus Jones, who played a long time in the NFL. And it was to get more speed on the field, and Carolina became a sideline-to-sideline team. Like their defense could go from this sideline to that sideline, and they're making plays. You see Kamori House doing that, making plays on both sidelines. He's a DB. He has DB speed at linebacker, and it allows Andrew Simpson to do all those, if this is 1984, he'd have a neck roll, a big neck roll. He'd be one of those guys. So you're seeing a lot of stuff kind of take shape. And I said about a month ago, this team has more talent than we've seen. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I'm not patting myself, but I thought defensively all along they had more talent than we've seen. And we've seen a lot of stability come out of some of these guys. Marcus Allen is playing better than some of the numbers look. Sometimes he makes some mistakes, but he's really done a nice job blanketing guys here of late. I imagine his PFF grade will be pretty good when it comes out later tonight. Will Hardy back there and calling stuff, and the guys that have a tremendous amount of trust in what he says. Another dude, Jaden Patterson, playing for Thad Dixon, has done pretty well. He got banged up today. I think Javion Butts was out there for a while. There was a lot of guys that got in some action, and we got the dudes up front. Again, I'll reiterate, that was the biggest question mark coming into the season, were the interior defensive line. We kind of thought they'd be pretty good at the end. The defensive end. We thought that Melcart would be pretty good, and we thought Yates would be a stud, right?
They're the pieces for it. They're the pieces for it, yeah.
Yeah, but the guys inside are playing well. DeAndre Robinson's playing well. Man, Isaiah Johnson's improved so much. Xavier Lewis is excellent in pass rush, and he's a true freshman. And you've got C.J. Mims, a little bit of a veteran guy, giving him tons of great reps inside now. That stability of owning your gap. We're seeing all that come together. So I think this is a legitimately pretty good defense. It's one thing to have a couple of good games against bad teams, but Stanford ended up, I think, with 304 yards, correct?
Yeah, I'll double check that, but I believe you are right.
And I had started to write a note in
320, excuse me. 320.
Okay, I started to write a note in the takeaways. This was going to be 6 of 9 games in which the opponent had under 300 yards. At some point, we just got to say, guys, it's a good defense. Now, is it a great defense? I don't know. We can't say that because against the best team they played, TCU, they were horrible. But that was 2.5 months ago.
Yeah.
Against a pretty good offensive team, which Central Florida has proven to be even in the Big 12, they really struggled. And then Clemson, its best quarter of the year, its best quarter in a couple of years, was against this defense. So the warts are big enough and they're still glowing enough that you can't kind of escape that. But if you look at the rest of the package, it's been pretty good and it has been gradual improvement. So I asked Bill today about the growth, about what has been different lately that both Melcart and Tyler are able to get to the quarterback. Like, are they lining up a little bit more outside? Are the guys inside getting a little bit more conventional pressure that the tight ends have to worry about them? They can't chip on the edge as much, or if there's a quote-unquote fullback, a running back that stays back, they have to first worry about the interior and then the edge, and there's not enough time to get to the edge because they're getting some push up front. He didn't want to go into the nitty-gritty of it, and he actually said, well, we were playing some games earlier, and the scores were lopsided. Teams weren't going to throw that much, so we didn't have a chance to do it. So my follow-up question was, are you trying to say that we would have seen a lot more of this earlier in games that weren't competitive? If they weren't competitive, he said, no. We've improved a lot. So, yeah, they've improved. Got them to admit that they've improved a great deal, and you've seen incremental improvements start to come together with a lot of this stuff. Clearly, Steve Belichick knows what he's doing as a defensive coordinator. Look at what he did with Washington's defense that played for a national title, and then the following season, the one that he inherited, they were a lot better. It's just the offense wasn't very good. He might deserve to have a pretty good offense at some point as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, would probably
win some games because he didn't have it at Washington last year.
Yeah.
So, that was the year after Michael Penix, and they just struggled big time. I think the defense is legitimately pretty good. They're going to get tested the next 3 weeks, but honestly, guys, Wake is not a world beater. Duke lost to you. I thought Duke might lose to UConn. Duke is not that good. NC State, C.J. Bailey is what he is, but this team's getting better too. The defense is getting better, and they've been able to strike that flint enough offensively to win some games. I guess that's the recipe for this club.
It feels like it. You are right, because it felt like the offense kind of, again, made enough plays, especially in the second half, to score a couple touchdowns, and that's the game. You had I like to call it kind of the Davion Goss drive early in the second half, and then you had the Jordan Shipp play where the Stanford corner, the safety that was guarding him, kind of slipped on it, and that allowed him to get a little space, but breaks the tackle, makes a long run into the end zone, and that kind of iced it. But I want to, as we mentioned, I want to talk.
By the way, Jacob, his cut. He doesn't have breakaway speed.
No.
Really good speed. I've said it for a while, and some people don't like it. He's a great possession receiver. I think he could play at the next level as a possession receiver. He's strong. He runs a good route. He gets out of his breaks very, very well. He did on that play, but he made a cut that shook a defender, and that gave him the lane to get to the end zone.
Yeah.
So I like when you see that from him, because I'd like to see how much giddy up there truly is. And we saw a little bit of that on that play, which was good to see, especially if you're a huge Jordan Shipp fan and you want to see him play at the next level. He showed a little bit of next level there.
Yeah, I turned to people sitting around me when it became 20-3 after the Jordan Shipp touchdown. I was like, whoa, that's that's got to be game, right? Like the way this game's going, that's got to be game. And ultimately it was, but it wasn't as straightforward as I think I thought it would be at that moment. Because again, Stanford had 2 late drives in the fourth quarter, marched down the field kind of both times, and that kind of changed the game on its head. I believe it was a drive of 80 yards and another drive of 75, I believe, something like that. I'll have to look it up here in a second, but that flipped the game on its head. Stanford has the onside kick, gets a little sketchy, and then Carolina was able to do enough late to get the dub. And again, Melcart kind of sealing it late on as well. And Tyler Thompson had the big deflection late on too, so they deserve a lot of credit for that. But what do you think happened, just to talk about that? Again, I'm not trying to focus on negatives here, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it, because it felt like a game Carolina was in control of. It felt like Stanford was not going to score a touchdown. But to me, as someone who was in the stands, it felt like Carolina kind of exhaled a little bit. Like, okay, yeah, this game's over. We got this. And the defense, too, I think, just from a schematic standpoint, I'd like to get your take on this, too, started playing, I don't know if prevent D is the right word, but they started playing off and kind of letting things happen in front of them. And that's great if you can do that. They were able to run some clock in that scenario, but the problem is Stanford started moving the ball through the air. Because of that, gained a little confidence, ended up scoring a couple touchdowns. So what do you think happened late on? And is that I don't really consider it a cause of concern for the defense. It just felt like one of those kind of human nature moments where you just kind of exhale thinking you have the game won, and you don't, man. You got to play to the final whistle.
It looked a little strategic to me. And by the way, shame on Stanford for not kicking those extra points.
Yeah, that was a weird.
When it's 20-9, kick the extra point, make it a TD field goal game.
It was a weird one. I didn't get
that.
Because
if you're going to put yourself in a position to have to score a late touchdown like they did, wouldn't you rather just have that be in overtime?
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't make a lot of sense. You kick that extra point, it's 20-10. You get the next touchdown, you kick the extra point. Suddenly you're running your offense with 46 seconds left with the idea of getting a field goal and not a touchdown.
And they should have had one of those 2-point conversions too, because they did the reverse, and the wide receiver just did not throw it to the open quarterback.
The quarterback was wide open.
Wide open, yeah, it was a weird one.
And it looked like he started to, maybe he lost grasp of the ball.
Yeah, I don't know. It was almost like he was like, I can make it. And he just decided to run with it. He was pretty upset on the sidelines afterwards. I was kind of watching him. He was pretty pissed off with himself. But yeah, it was a weird one. That
As far as your question goes, I don't think it was a letdown. I don't think this team could have a letdown. The kind of season that they've gone, it would be a pretty wild turn of events if this group got suddenly overconfident.
Do you think they exhaled?
Felt too good. I don't even know if it was an exhale. I think that they were playing off a little bit. They were blitzing a lot earlier. Like this team doesn't have a lot of success blitzing. Most of their sacks come more conventionally. Mm-hmm. So they had some trouble with some of the blitzing. I think they brought it a couple times and Stanford was able to convert, but Stanford's quarterback hadn't shown that he could throw the ball downfield. And the coverage was pretty solid. And there was one play downfield where the offensive receiver had pass interference. It may have even been on that last drive. I can't remember. But I think Carolina thought, okay, look, you're going to try. They should have done a better job keeping the ball more in the middle of the field. Stanford got out of bounds too much. They extended the game too much. That's something I think there were just mistakes that Carolina could fix on film or look at on film and say, okay, guys, you got to keep this a little bit more in the middle of the field. I know it's easier said than done, but we see teams doing it. If you're a Bill Belichick coach team, shouldn't you be able to do it because he's, Mount Rushmore? So I think that was part of it. I think that Stanford did a pretty good job of taking what was there and just kind of moving. And what happened is sometimes on defense, you get in sort of a backpedal mode, and it's kind of hard to come out of it. And they got in backpedal mode, and Stanford started getting a little bit of a rhythm. So more than anything, I think it was just they didn't stop them. I don't think that they exhaled. I don't really think that they went into a full-blown prevent. I don't think you can with that amount of time left on the clock, given the fact that this team hasn't really been in prevent all year. So you'd be asking them to do something on the field in November that they've probably spent precious little time on. So I think that they were in base, but maybe played off a little bit more just to make sure everything stays in front of them. And it worked because they won the game. So, but yeah, I saw on social media, when I came back from the press conference, I looked at my phone. I mean, social media is just kicking their butt about that. I'm like, guys, you just won a game.
Yeah,
given how this season's going, get over it. You won a game.
Yeah,
you beat a team that, quite frankly, you didn't play well against for a lot of the game. They had 47 yards and 3 first downs in the first half. That was abhorrent. It was tragic. It was football tragedy at halftime. Everybody in the press box joked that we're like we're serving a prison sentence having to cover this stuff, right? And then it opened up a little bit in the second half, and we saw a halftime adjustment offensively by the Tar Heels. Now, we haven't seen a whole lot this year, but we saw it 2 weeks in a row now, Syracuse and today, and the defense did enough to win the game. So you take the win, you shove it in your back pocket, you're 4-5, you go on to Wake Forest next week, a team that has proven to be better so far, but that doesn't mean that they might be better right now. The Tar Heels are kind of moving on the upward. I don't think there's any denial about that. They have improved. I think the methodical layering and the trite stacking days term is a reality here. And the no panic in the coaching staff and how they've gone about things is starting to pay off a little bit. Mm-hmm. For all of our criticisms before, look, at those times, they were that team. They were a pathetic football team for much of this season. There were times they looked as bad as anything I've seen in this program since 1999. Right now, they don't look that way. Right now, they look like their average quarterback play, a couple of more offensive linemen, and maybe a tight end that could run around and catch a ball away from being maybe an average or slightly above average ACC team. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're quite there yet, but the defense is giving them opportunities, getting some turnovers today and all those sacks. They're making things troubling for the opposing offense. They're giving them chances to at least be in games. Mm-hmm. And that's really all they can ask right now. Even these last three, they could lose the last three and finish 4-8. But if the defense consistently gives them opportunities to be in those games, then if you're Carolina and you go into the portal here in January, you're like, okay, we know what we need to get. And they're very married to Gio, by the way. And maybe an offseason with Gio could do wonders, because we are talking about a guy that was there when Tom Brady went from scout team quarterback to greatest quarterback of all time. It's not like he's forgotten these things. Mm-hmm. So if this staff is indeed back, I think that they're seeing some things that they'll be able to kind of work with in the offseason that they didn't really have to work with last offseason.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the last couple of weeks, I think, too, and this is a testament to the improvements we've seen this season, especially really going back to the Clemson game in a lot of ways, is they're winning games they're supposed to win now. And Carolina wasn't even in a position really earlier in the season to do that. There wasn't a game they were supposed to win because they were that bad. So I think they deserve some credit for that. Now, is Syracuse a world beater? No. Is Stanford a good football team? No. But I think the defense is playing winning football to beat a lot of teams, especially in this league. I think we know what the offense is. I don't think in these next three games at Wake, Duke, and at NC State, the offense is just going to start putting up, 30 points on everybody. I think they are what they are at this point. But I think the defense gives at least Carolina fans a lot of optimism going into those games of like, all right, are we incredibly confident that Carolina is going to go into these and win? No, but do we feel like we have a heck of a lot I opportunity because of how the defense is playing right now? Absolutely. And it gives you, from a Carolina fan's perspective, and I've talked to some people about this, I think it just brought a little bit more excitement back to the season because, AJ, I mean, it wasn't that long ago where things were just bleak, man. That Clemson week, the bye week before and after that one was just – it was bad, man. So I think just glad to see Carolina fans have something to cheer for again a little bit.
That was as bad as anything I've covered.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it was me too. Yeah.
And I will say this. I am not of the train of thought saying, boy, they really should be 6-3.
No, I don't lean that way.
Because I think what happened at Cal and UVA had to happen. Mm-hmm. It's part of their process. Mm-hmm. People just say that's crazy. No, it's not. Because if you're Cal and Leacock crosses the goal line, you could say, man, we should have won that game. I think in the end, especially when mediocre teams play each other,
things like that.
Whoever wins supposed to. You can't play that game. Yeah. They needed to get close in order to then step over the hump. This is a process situation right now. You and I have not used the word that much. We used it a ton early on with Mac Brown because it legitimately was a process. Now we're starting to see where some dust has settled in the program. Some anchors have been put, I wouldn't say anchors, but they've clenched down enough that the process is literal and it's in front of us right now. And Bill Belichick is now talking more about the process. He was right when he said that they were improving. It just looked like it was a stupid thing he was saying at the time because we didn't see it in performance. Mm-hmm. But it took to get away from Clemson, to have the chaos, to have the group galvanized, the kids galvanized on their own, and they started playing for the eye in the sky, so to speak, and some other positive things started happening. Some of the messaging was tweaked a little bit in the building, and as a result, they've been more competitive. But the key was getting over that point and getting a win. Yeah, it was tough with Cal. Boy, those kids deserve to have a win. They've been through so much, but they didn't win. They didn't win because they did enough things to lose that game, so they deserve to lose that game. Then you get Virginia coming in here, 16th ranked, and obviously the Wahoos weren't ready to play. Tar Heels exploited that. So here's an opportunity for them to exploit another team, something they hadn't done much of. They still lost the game. They came close. They still lost the game. They should have lost the game because they lost the game, right? Mm-hmm. But then it changed. They go up and play a Syracuse team, which is terrible. But Carolina did to them what they should do to a terrible team. And then I think Stanford's terrible too, to be honest with you. And I didn't think anything of their first-time starting quarterback. They've been fortunate that in these last 2 weeks they played first-time starters at quarterback.
Yeah.
Guys that were not thought of as the future quarterbacks back in August. Mm-hmm. So that's how much those clubs have been desperate to make changes. But credit Carolina for taking advantage of it and getting the wins. Now I think the test kicks up the next 3 weeks a lot. Although none of those teams are world beaters, we could be talking about 3 teams they're playing that are all going to fight to get into a bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, for all the stuff we'd love to say, man, Duke's pretty good. They lost to Tulane. They lost to UConn. Come on. Mm-hmm. They're not that good.
Wake Forest on the verge of beating UVA right now. About a minute and a half left in that game.
What's the score?
16-9. UVA has the ball.
I don't think UVA is that good. I don't think UVA is that good.
I don't know.
I think the ACC. If UVA is the ACC rep in the CFP, they're going to get obliterated.
I don't know if you saw you probably didn't see it, but Chandler Morris went out in that game with a concussion. So that's played a factor in this game for Virginia.
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
But still, no, I agree with you. I don't think Virginia's
been that good. I know we're not doing the whole ACC thing here. The ACC needs to have Louisville or Miami or
Pittsburgh
Georgia
at this
Tech.
point.
I think Georgia. I think Georgia Tech could win a game in the CFP. I think Louisville and Miami might be able to win a game, or at least be competitive. Virginia, no. And so I think we're kind of seeing that. But 4-5 with 3 games left that I'm not going to say are super winnable, but they're competable, if you will. And if you compete and you're close and you get 2 turnovers like they did today, they turn into points, even though they were terrible in those possessions after getting the turnovers, they got them in the right area and they're able to get points out of it. Think about it. They don't get those 2 field goals. Final score was 20-15. Carolina ends up with 14 points. They don't get those 2 field goals. They possibly lose this game. So possibly. Obviously, they won, but possibly. So that helps, and they got something out of it. I call them free points. When you get a turnover that far in somebody else's territory, don't screw up. Don't lose the ball. And at least walk out of there with free points. Free points, I should say. So they did that, and that's in the NFL. That's winning football. And who's the head coach? NFL guy.
It felt like, I was telling people, man, like it felt like one of those like Bill Belichick. It was a very Bill Belichick game. It was a very like NFL game in a lot of ways, because I think Bill Belichick is completely content with winning a game 20-15 or 20-3 the way this thing was going. I don't think he cares about putting 50 up on anybody. And also you see it a lot too, where these kind of close situations, 4th and 1 around midfield, like the punt team comes straight out. That's Bill Belichick. There is no like thinking about going for it. It's no, we're going to punt it here and we're going to play safe. And when you have a defense that's playing as well as North Carolina is, especially the last couple of weeks, you can afford to play like that, because again, the offense isn't giving you a lot to work with. They're doing enough to kind of push ahead and win these games. But when you got a defense you can fall back on like that, and you can say, hey guys, like go out there and get a stop. I mean, that puts you in these positions where you can be a little bit more conservative things. You don't have to take as many risks on offense, and you can just kind of, it's not the most entertaining football to watch. It's not 63-61, win over Wake Forest kind of stuff, but it's a different form of football. And again, it kind of reminds me of what we expected with Belichick a little bit.
Yeah, there's some militaristic aspect of the way he goes about things. Think of him as a general. And if the mission is to get you guys over the hill and then down it, to take the other group's flag and take that soil, your mission is to take the flag.
There's no style points. There's no style points. No, it's just do it.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Get the damn flag.
That's what it feels like.
That's his style of football. And today they got Stanford's flag.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good way to put it, man. I think that's a good place to wrap this one
Promo.
up.
Don't forget the promo.
Yeah. I should have mentioned that earlier. 75% off a 1-year VIP subscription at TarHeels247.com comes out to less than $3 a month. I mean, it's an absolutely
It's like $250 a month.
It's absolutely a fantastic deal right now, guys. It ends on Monday at midnight, I believe. Yep. Monday at midnight. So take advantage of that opportunity. Great time to sign up. We got a massive, awesome community over here on the website. We're just trying to continue to grow it. So take advantage of this deal because as people know who followed us for a long time, these deals don't happen super often. So go ahead and get signed up before Monday night. Again, links in the description below. It'll take you right over there. All right, man, let's get out of here. We said we were going to go about 25 on this one. We went 35. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't an hour and 30 like we did on the football show, though. So,
well, I got long-winded again. So, and I had no Syracuse Denny's story. I'm writing from here, no Denny's. And if I get kicked out of here, I get to go home. So I'm actually home on a Friday. Or this last night was a Friday, so I'm home.
Yeah, it's
I've been
nice.
home for a while, so it's nice to be here and get in my car and drive to my house when I'm done and go into my office and get some work and say hello to my wife and my daughter and my crazy dog.
Yeah, man, and even this week, you don't have to go just Winston-Salem. It's not too far.
Winston-Salem, yeah. I mean, they kick us out of the press box way too soon, so that may be a Denny's night. I'll have to be very, very calculated on which Denny's I go to, possibly.
Yeah, you're lying about that. Let us
we
know.
We don't travel again until Fort Myers for basketball.
Yeah, that's nice, man. That is nice. Get a little break in that respect. Let us know in the comments if you're from Winston-Salem what Denny's AJ should stop by on Saturday night because he'll probably need one around this time. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and get the heck out of here. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, get involved in the comments. See y'all next time. Thanks.